So I hate being on stage, so I prefer to be with you guys down here, if that's okay. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to come and speak. It's a subject really close to my heart and one I've been championing for a few years now in the rare disease community. And I know the FH community is rare and non-rare. But when I've done this with the skin community globally, and actually a lot of the messages and the impact of rare conditions on mental health is similar in terms of the non-rare conditions for you. And so some things will resonate with you, and it will resonate with different communities and different people based on your own experiences. So I also want to say a big thank you to Patsy and to Ilsa, who have been brilliant ambassadors of FH Europe, and they've been working with me over the last 3-4 years. So they've been really championing your community on a European level when we look at mental health. Yeah, right, absolutely. I must confess, you know, I tried to read the website to understand the 4 conditions in detail, and my mind was boggled. So, you know, I'll touch on a bit about the challenges that brings when you're explaining that to people in your community. But we'll be doing a few Slido, some polls, because I like to engage you throughout this. And I really, to start us off, I wanted to check with you what you thought mental health was really. So if you can go to the Slido, get your cameras out, your phones. Yep, everyone there? Okay. So really, what is mental health? I wanted to pick your brains and get you to do some thinking before we start. Is it an absence of mental illness and feeling sad? Is it a state where your brain is always positive and productive? Is it being able to handle life's ups and downs, to live, work well and connect with others? Or it's a mysterious concept only psychologists know? I always think psychologists are a bit like the Jedi Knights of the health service. They get me to hold spiders and go on roller coasters. So, see what your answers are. I think we've got 31 people. I'm not quite sure how many's in the room. Is it about 50? Yeah, 60. A few more. So there's an overwhelming vote on being able to handle life's ups and downs and to get with others. Has everyone done the poll? Yeah. And everyone can hear me okay at the back. I'm a bit quiet spoken, so if I go a bit quiet, just give us a shout. Raise your hand, yeah? So I like to reflect on that because mental health comes with a lot of stigma. You know, mental health isn't me. I think in language, like in Germany where I live, mental health as a term is more of a negative than a positive. And I just wanted to can we move across? I can't. I wanted to just put us all on the same page around what mental health is, because we'll be diving into it as a topic. And this is a definition by the WHO, the World Health Organization, and I love it. I love it because it says, and I'll read it because I think it's important. Mental health is a state of well-being that enables people to cope with life stresses, to realize their abilities, to learn well, to work well, and contribute to the community. It's an integral part of our individual health and well-being and underpins our collective abilities to make decisions, build relationships, and shape the world we're in. And it's critical to personal, community, and social economic development. I mean, it's built into our very fibre of ourselves and society. So the way we look at mental health should be seen as being not about just us, it's about us being in a community, being in the world. We learned from COVID the impact that had on people's lives, social isolation, that it impacted different people, different communities more so I believe the teenagers really struggled. I really liked the social isolation in Germany. I was quite happy. But, so we're affected by the world we're in. Mental health is this dynamic state. It changes by the second. It's a continuum. And I put this wheel up because I always get a bit stressed when I do presentations. So I started off running for the toilet, hiding, fearful, anxious. But then I get really, this is a real privilege to engage with you lot here and to connect with you. So then I get excited. It changes by the minute, by the second. By the end of today, we'll all be excited for the party at the end and disco dancing like no one's looking. But it's something which is fluid and constantly changing. So what affects your mental health the most in an average day? If you go back to the Slido, I think it's still there. Can you still access it? So choose what's best for you in terms of what affects your mental health the most. Option A is my inbox. It's basically a black hole of stress. Mine definitely is. Is it my own thoughts? Sometimes I'm the biggest hype person, and other times, yikes. Or is it about the people around me? They energize me and sometimes they don't. Or is it all the above? So we've got two leaders at the moment, all the above. In England, we would probably put, depending on how much tea we've drunk, but definitely coffee here in mainland Europe. So 45% have said about, depending on the coffee, it's all the above. But quite a lot say about your own thoughts and how you're thinking in the day. Okay, I think that's okay. The reason why I asked that is I just want to highlight that point about we're connected. We're connected in our families and in our communities. You can't switch off from the media, constant information. We live in a world, and that affects us. We call them psychosocial factors. They're external to us. And there are things which are risk factors, which can impact your mental health and well-being in a negative. But there's also some protection factors. Now, living with a rare condition or an FH, one of the FH conditions, that comes with a set of risk factors which increases the impact it has on you on your daily life. But there's stuff you can do to counter that. So some of the risk factors are when your physical health is poor, that has a direct impact on your mental health and well-being. Having overloaded information, some rare conditions, it's, you just get given uncertainties day after day. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. It raises anxiety and stress. And I don't know any condition where there's an average journey, an average, natural history, as it were, of a condition. They're all different. So you're living with a condition where what's tomorrow bringing? What's next week? What's the medium-term future look like? Surgical interventions and treatments can have an impact. Financial distress. If you're unable to work because of the condition you're living with, that increases the pressure on you and your family. Uncoordinated care, it's a big one. For a lot of rare conditions, and I'm not sure about the other FH conditions, but when care is uncoordinated and you have to see lots of specialists, that can magnify the stress involved. Stigma, prejudice, bullying, social isolation. But we can do things to counter that, and the toolkit, which you'll be doing the workshop in later, we'll be exploring some of those things which have worked for you and what you've seen, so we can really build on them, so we develop a toolkit for your community. So the protection factors, when your physical health is good, your mental health is good. One has a direct impact on the other. I had a heart scare at the beginning of the year. You know, I was beside myself for 3 months. I couldn't think. I couldn't function. No one understood that except me. As soon as that goes, I felt normal. I felt back to myself again. Opportunities to pursue your interests, building self-esteem, acceptance, being connected into a community. I think 10 years of FH Europe and seeing all you here fills my heart with joy, because together you understand each other's experiences. You don't have to explain to anyone. You don't have to justify. Your experiences are legitimized. People understand. I think that's a game changer. When not every community has that. So I think the fact you're here and coming so far from around the world, I think you should, give yourself a big round of applause. I think you're making the effort to look after you. And honestly, it's something you should cherish. Inclusive communication. When you go to a hospital and they actually involve you in the decision making, explaining the treatments, that really empowers you and your quality of life improves. Access to information, they're all aspects which can improve counter the effects living with a condition can have. So this is about the rare disease journey, but I think some of it's relevant for the other FH conditions. And these are the external factors when you're thrown onto the rare disease journey, living with, my dyslexia kicks in now, FH, HOFH. You know, when you're living with that condition, you're told about that, you start this journey, and those are external factors which are impacting you, external risk factors. And I think it's good to recognize them because we can do something about them. So diagnostic odyssey, seeing multiple clinicians and specialists and saying, are you sure something's wrong? Well, I'm the expert. I should know. I think you're okay. That doubt, that not believing you, it can really erode your confidence in the system, in the healthcare system. How diagnosis is given to you can impact not just you at that point in time. It can cast a long shadow over the whole of the rest of the journey. I work with the chondroplasia community a lot, and some of the horror stories I hear by parents have told about a chondroplasia at birth by the doctor, how that's done, it scars them for life. Because you're being given the condition you will be facing and living with, but it's being framed into a negative. I think we can do something about that. So how diagnosis is given can either empower a family to rise up to the challenges, to overcome those challenges and move forward, or it can destroy lives and relationships. It's a really important point. Living with the uncertainty. Uncertainty has a direct impact on stress and anxiety. These uncertainty, a lot of rare conditions, you know, you're living with a risk of something happening. You know, what will happen for my child as an adult? Will they go to university? What's the whole future aspirations? It's uncertain. But there's uncertainty around next week. Will the doctors all be there on time for my tests? Will the test results come back okay? Will it all be cancelled because in the UK there's another strike? You know, that uncertainty is micro-uncertainty and it builds up. Low awareness increases isolation, frustration. I think everyone knows someone who's been touched by cancer. The other day, one of my closest friends talked to me about breast cancer. And what your natural response is you lean in because you know you understand cancer. You say, oh, I've been diagnosed with a rare condition, a genetic condition. People look a bit strange at you and ever so slightly lean out because they don't know, they're not sure. That little moment can build up and make you feel frustrated, can make you feel not supported when you most needed it. And when you go to the hospitals, and 99% of healthcare services don't know about HOFH, and my dyslexia is really kicking in, or the other conditions. When they don't know about those conditions, it's frustrating. You should know. You're the person I'm coming for help. But you don't know. I'm having to explain things again and again, reliving the journey, my experiences. That builds up isolation as well. And the lack of information, which is normally around, can make people have a thirst for knowledge. Becoming an advocate is a way to regain control in an uncertain situation. But with more knowledge, there's more possibilities of what could happen. And as we highlighted earlier, there's not one pathway. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really. And that's why I think groups like this, your information on your website's brilliant. You know, someone who gets diagnosed and first hears those words and goes to the website for FH Europe, you're getting tailored information which is accessible to you and you understand it when you need it. So there's a lot of complexity around treatment. Most of healthcare is biomedically focused. I don't know how many guidelines there is for FH conditions. We heard one, it's taking 20 odd years to implement. I'm sure it's just medically focused. How much of it's highlighting about the psychosocial support families get through that process? And with a lot of treatments, it's quite intensive treatments. It can have a big impact on your life as well, and you have to live with that. And all this leads to a build-up of stress and strain in families. And I think mental health, if you strip it back to one thing, in its purest form, I believe it's about the quality of the relationships with the people we have in our lives. When your relationships are good, you feel supported, you feel seen and understood, and your mental health is good. You have that buffer system. But when you're going through this journey, it can really impact those relationships and impact your quality of life. So, poll question back to the not Mentimeter, Slido. It's like Uber. It's very young and trendy. So pick the moments when you feel in your journey were the toughest. Whilst waiting years for a diagnosis, feeling totally in the dark, juggling specialist appointments, fighting for care, in the quiet moments between the battles where everything goes still. Honestly, all the above. It's non-stop. I think you're plotting. Are you okay there? No. So, honestly, all the above. There's an outright winner at the moment. It's different for all of us. We'll wait just a few more. So 42% say it's all the above. Oh, juggling appointments is coming back strong. So I think we've got a lead, really, two in the front. So juggling specialist appointments, fighting for care and research, and it's non-stop, all this. Brilliant. Thank you. So the reason why I wanted to reflect on that, because we've got some data, we can highlight. I've worked on a European level for 12 years, working with lots of different clinical networks called the European Reference Networks, and supporting patient representatives from loads of different conditions be active in there. And we looked at their journeys, and they highlighted mental health was a big issue. Every single community highlighted a big issue. But at the time, were we doing anything in advocacy? Absolutely nothing. Why is this a big issue for everyone, but yet we don't do anything in advocacy terms? And the way I understand that is that we live in one of two places. We deal with the medical complexities, the urgency of finding someone who knows, finding a diagnosis, pushing treatment, getting access to treatment, or we're alone. And it's when we're alone that the impact of that journey comes home. So our advocacy is all on the medical complexities, but I think it's time now to give space to say your mental health matters, to live well with a condition, not just to be pushing research, but to share how can we best live well with FH. And I think sharing that in the workshops will be really useful. So this is some data, which is from our survey tool. You can see 7 out of 10 people with a rare condition, it's impacted their ability to work and to be financially independent. Over half said it increased social isolation. And I think it's when we are isolated, the impact of the journey really comes home. It's at that point we need to connect. Holistic care, that whilst when we get to this specialist centre in Amsterdam UMC or in the NICARE in Paris, we're really happy with the medical care. But 85% said no one was interested in my mental health and well-being. No one stopped and said, how are you getting on? I had a training with some trainee geneticists, and we talked about how to deliver diagnoses, and they said, what do we do? I said, well, once you've delivered the diagnosis, why don't you stop being a clinician and just be a human being there? It's a tough moment. Stop hiding behind that. The human side of this is so important. And 90% of people said that they felt worried, stressed, or depressed. And I don't shy away from the other figure, because I think it's that isolation bit when the other figure comes in. 1 in 5 people have felt suicidal at some point. I'm not saying that's this community, I'm just talking generally across the whole of the rare disease community. I think in those moments, reach out to someone you care, who loves you, because you're important. Never feel by yourself where there's no hope. There is always hope. I talk about this. In my 20s, I struggled with depression. And I went to my old school GP. She was called Dr. Barker, tough as old boots, family doctor. And I said, Dr. Barker, I'm falling. She smiled at me without a heartbeat, and she said, Matt, I'm here to catch you. In that moment, someone was there. I never went back to Dr. Barker, but I knew someone was there. I've lived my whole life on her saying that one thing and being for me in that one moment. So if you ever feel in a dark place, connect with someone who loves you, because there will be people out there and you will find hope to move forward. And it's always about hope. Sorry, I get a bit emotional. I do this because I absolutely love. I think our mental health and well-being should be championed. We should, look after it more. And in a lot of societies, today's society, we don't. So it's close to my heart. So I apologise if I reveal too much, but it's you can see why it's close to my heart. We have a survey out at the moment. So we talked about advocacy earlier, being advocates in your ambassador program and contacting and texting your Ministry of Health that you're here. You need data to demonstrate the impact these conditions have on your lives. And do we have data on mental health and well-being for FH, acute conditions? This survey's open now. If all of you in this room completed that survey, you would have, well, even, let's say, even if you complete the survey, we would have data for you on the impact of FH on your lives. And then you've got data which you can use in your advocacy. And if you do it, if there's loads of Dutch in the room, if all the Dutch did it, you'll get it FH for the Netherlands. And that's not that big a country. Okay. Hopefully the QR code, I'm not that, literate. I think we get to the point where we need to start raising the importance of quality of life. And whilst the physical aspects of a condition can impact our quality of life, that's clear. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. About the survey,
yeah.
We need data. You are absolutely right. We need even people that understand the data, because until the decision maker, or the politician use metrics that do not integrate this data, we are out. So it's important to enrich the evaluation methods with this data. So otherwise they cannot appreciate the value of a drug, the importance of a treatment, the impact on the life. And the only way is to use people like you, expert, that drive the patient sufferance in a way, and let the people appreciate, because we cannot even complain with the payers, because they use the maths. It's their job. So until we enrich these systems, they cannot even appreciate this importance. The same for the behavioral data, no, it's the same. So we need to, economists are doing this. It's important to enrich the way the system look at the patients, even with this data. Otherwise.
So I'm going to pause that for coffee, because I think we can have a long conversation on that, and I'll get the evil eye if I don't crack on. But I absolutely agree with you. So at least we're getting the data, which we can use. How we use it's in the next step. With quality of life, as I said, about the physical aspects of a condition obviously impact quality of life. But our individual beliefs, feelings, and expectations of the condition impact it more. How you see your condition, how your expectations and beliefs about the condition frame, it's like glasses, everything about how you see your condition and how it impacts your life. And those individual beliefs, feelings, expectations are shaped by the interactions you have with the clinicians in the hospital and people in the community. So I think if we get the language right, we can empower people and actually improve quality of life, because we're not seeing this as what you can't do all the time, but what you can do, what you still can do, and what you should still do. I've talked about most of these things. I'm just thinking, I've covered all those. Next quiz, and I love the emojis with the cowboy hat on. So the US guys, y'all. So have you ever felt like you had to explain yourself to be understood or accepted? So if you go to the Menti, the Mentimeter. Thank you. So yes, often I feel like I have to have a PowerPoint presentation to explain what's going on. I know someone with the OI, she's got in a wheelchair, she has a PowerPoint ready, and she's got a TED talk to give to anyone and everyone about it. Occasionally, it depends on who I'm with. Not really, but sometimes I've seen others do that. So there's no one who said never. Wow. So this sense of explaining stuff, having to explain the condition and whether people are understanding it or not, I think so the occasionally is the most, but if you add occasionally or yes, quite a lot. So we go to the next slide. That sense of explaining away is a stigmatizing experience. You're having to justify, no, believe me. And there's different types of stigma around that. There's the ones which are related to physical accessibility or restrictions, like because of pain or fatigue. Negative perspectives, perceptions or of appearances can create shame or socially accessible humiliation. I talked about achondroplasia. That is the last condition I know where it's absolutely fine in public to ridicule, take photographs and laugh. In society, that's still okay. It's outrageous. That's stigma in its hardest form. So that's for a visible difference. But invisible difference is also stigmatizing because there's a lack of understanding that people have of the condition. You know, if it affects you because of fatigue, are you really that tired? It's so belittling. You have to explain things. And this is a stigmatized attitude, which can increase isolation, where you don't feel believed or unheard. For young people growing up, that period of transition from being a young person to a young adult is a point in which is a very complex point where they have to reconceptualize their identity. And it's an identity with a rare condition, which has stigma associated with it. So we need to do more for our young people in that point. And the value of explaining to people what FCS is, or the other conditions, it's just not worth it. What do I get back? So why bother? So that increases isolation. How many parents are in the room, or partners of someone with a condition? So, message to you guys. There is a direct relationship between your mental health and well-being and that of the person you love. Because you provide the main buffer to their, you know, when they're going through a difficult time, you're the one who counters that and supports them. You're the cheerleader. When your mental health and well-being is affected, it has a direct negative impact on theirs. So take time to look after you first. Because by doing that, you're there and your mental health and well-being is good. The person who you care about, theirs also goes up. So, last poll question. By the way, anyone who knows me since I left the UK, I love Eurovision. So when I can get Eurovision Song Contesting, I do. Please forgive me. So what's your ultimate reset button for your mental health? So, could I get the polls? Is it dancing like no one's watching and then you realise, oh no, someone was? Well, everyone will be later. Is it cuddling your pet, pretending they understand your TED Talk? How many are with me blasting Eurovision bangers? Yay, I always want Belgium to win. It's ever since I've been living in Brussels. You know, I'm on stage with the sequins and smoke. Deux points for my mental health. Or is it open water swimming or skinny dipping in the Mediterranean when you get the chance? How many skinny dippers are there? 22%. I think it's over here, definitely. That's fantastic. I mean, pets are great. I mean, I have an 11-year-old princess greyhound. She's old, but she's still a princess. And she listens to all my presentations before I leave the house. Brilliant. Okay. So that is the presentation. I'm just going to get you ready for the workshop next. And I talked about a toolkit. Patsy and Elsie both helped me develop this toolkit. We worked with our community to scope out looking at tools which have worked to improve your mental health and well-being. And we structured it in 5 parts. The first one was around raising self-awareness, you know, being aware of your mental health and well-being and tools to enable you to check in with yourself to make sure when you need to do something. Self-care coping mechanisms. The second one is around resilience, fostering relationships, self-efficacy, being able to know how to disclose about a condition, how to represent yourself. The third one was practical tools, access to information, tools to enable you to advocate for psychosocial care. The fourth one is around caring connections. So looking at how communities like this can support you, peer support, mentoring. And then the fifth one was different common challenges like managing pain, sleep, visible or invisible difference. So the toolkit, I think you've got the link to, you can have a look at. There's a section which is highlighting all the different of those 5 chapters. I think you can scan it if you want.